Welcome back to another episode of Cactus Quest. Today I got a very special guest, Stefan Burger, better known as the Cactus Explorer on Instagram, who is an Australian expat living in Chile. He's also a naturalist, conservationist, habitat guide, and science communicator. I was fortunate enough to get to pull him out of the desert for a moment and have a conversation and pick his brain about all things cacti and conservation. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy.
It's been a little while since I've used Zoom.
No worries, man. No worries. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate you setting some time aside to talk with me.
No worries.
Yeah, I kind of explained a little bit to you about what the goal was and what I'm trying to do. I don't know if you had an opportunity to take a look at the video, the talk that I did with Gary, where we discussed how to identify as a collector who's buying plants online, what you can do to identify, hey, is this a poached plant? What kind of questions you can ask, and to explain a little bit about what CITES is and why that's important. And a lot of the people that watched the video found it super useful. There's not a whole heck of a lot of nuanced conversation going on around this topic.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, it's very emotive in most cases. And oftentimes it's kind of fueled by anger and condemnation and things like that, which in my experience in life is not the right approach to sway anyone to your opinion or anything like that. So my goal in inviting you to speak with me today was basically to kind of just have a little more of a nuanced conversation about, I have a few questions I want to ask, but why in the first place is plant conservation even important? Why should I care about it as a collector? Not necessarily speaking about me in particular, because my first Cactus Club meeting that I ever went to was a talk on conservation, and that really flavored the sauce for me. And that's set me on that path. But for your new collectors who maybe over this shutdown with all this extra time at home have come into the hobby and are now starting to collect plants, what are some things that they can do, and why is it important for them to even have this as a consideration in the first place, I guess, is kind of the spirit of the conversation that I wanted to have with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And geez, yeah, it's really tough, there's so many different aspects to it, and it all just keeps coming back to appreciating their ecology and their contribution, to the environment, the whole terrestrial biosphere. It's like, I don't know, people have a hard time, I think, connecting to nature and in transcendence, or I don't know, or appreciating, something outside of like maybe just general society or city life, and it all just comes back to just getting out into habitat and appreciating it, and so many people, they probably don't even know that some of this stuff exists. It's just such a complex conversation on how to kind of try and approach it to make someone appreciate, habitat and want to conserve it. It's a tricky conversation, I can tell you, because I've tried to have it with a few other people, and it's always hard to know how to approach it, without trying to make someone feel like, that they're doing like the wrong thing by even collecting, or
Right.
You know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. Some of my favorite, I grow cactus from seed, and pretty much, 1/3 of the cactus species out there are endangered or threatened. So just by that metric, basically everything that I'm growing is CITES listed or endangered or threatened. So that's kind of, for me, that's one of the things that I'm doing. But my favorite genera are going to be Copiapoa, Areococcus, and Lophophora. 3 heavily sought after and heavily poached plants. And and I think one of the things that I try to do with my Instagram account, and I watched, it's the same thing you try to do, and I think you do a wonderful job of it, of showing the plants in context and habitat, and showing how beautiful and majestic they actually are, and giving some of the thing that set me off was I saw a Copiapoa cinerea. In hindsight, I realize now it was a field collected Copiapoa cinerea. But when I saw that in person, it was awe-inspiring. Truly, I had been collecting
Yeah.
succulents and cactus and stuff for a couple of years, fairly loosely. And when I saw that, and I was like, wait a minute, this is a cactus? This is unbelievable. Where do these grow on planet Earth? You got to be kidding me, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And then when you learn about how they've adapted to survive in the Atacama, it's befuddling. And I think one of the things, talking with another gentleman yesterday, and one of the things that we kind of touched on was, humans like signs with labels and 90-degree angles and cement and roads and paved, and everything's named and organized and cataloged. And that's not nature.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is,
right.
to nature, a cactus isn't a cactus. It's only a cactus because we call it that. And that's just for our...
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about what, what price tag you put on it or how much value we give it as a species, like it's just there doing its thing, existing, and it's part of it has a whole ecology, it's got insects, birds that depend on it for its survival, it gives us oxygen, it takes CO2 from the atmosphere. There's a whole host of different things. It has a purpose, outside of Homo sapiens and what we do as people, and here we are kind of like taking it from its environment. It's got nothing to do in our homes. If we take a Copiapoa columnar alba from Chile and put it in a greenhouse, it's lost its purpose. It's lost its meaning in the world. There's pollinators who are looking for it. It's got a job to do here. And yeah, to see them being ripped from habitat is just, oh man, it's gut wrenching, because I mean, they've got a huge ornamental value, huge, in their age, their appearance, the way they look, and that's valued obviously by people. It's practically, it's impossible. Let's face it, you can't reproduce it in cultivation, or at least not in someone's lifetime. And even if you had a plant at that age, it's not going to look the same. Let's face it. We know, and that's what drives poaching.
Well, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things, with those three genus genera that I was talking about, they all share common traits. And another one that's heavily poached, and you'll find online, that is sold with that as like a selling point, is Agave utahensis, which grows out here. So you've got the Copiapoa down there in Chile. Up here, right. The way I really look at it is an Agave utahensis is very much like the Copiapoa of the agave world, because it's incredibly slow growing. No matter what you do in cultivation, it's never going to look like it looks growing out of the fissures of limestone out in the Mojave. It just isn't.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think, for me, I love going out into habitat and seeing that. And I think, social media is a double-edged sword, right? Social media is one of the things that I know you have seen firsthand. I mean, I get messages all the time. Hey, are you interested in buying these? I look at them like, don't ask me that, man. I'm the wrong person to send pictures of those plants.
I get people asking me that.
So it's like, I mean, come on, man. So you see it every day, and it's like, I think it's just, berating people or condemning people or trying to call people out and doing that whole thing. I just don't think that is the right approach at all. I could take you out to my house and show you the very first plants. I showed in my video, one of the very first Areocarpus I bought was a Physauratus. I had no idea. Once I got it and I started talking to some people, I showed somebody a picture and they go, look at the root, man. That thing is super compact. The root's got like rock shapes missing out of it. It was from habitat, and so it's like, okay, I certainly don't want to do that, and so it's like, what can I do? How can I start to look at things differently? And then from there, I think one of the things, and it's kind of maybe, maybe I'm a bit of a dreamer, but I think that we need people like that in the world. But I think, man, I recently met with a grower in Arizona, and 10 years ago, he sowed a ton of Cinnaria seed. And he's got tons of Cinnarias that are about the size of a grapefruit. And I was fortunate enough to be able to buy 2 of those, and they're gorgeous. I mean, forget that. Yes, they're never going to look like they do in habitat, and I'm fine with that. That's okay with me. But if everybody that follows you, 40,000+ people that want a Copiapoa, and everybody that follows me were to sow a bunch of Copiapoa seeds today, guess what? 10 years from now, they're not going to be $200 for a golf ball sized plant, which is going to put pressure on the desert and put pressure on poachers and frankly, put pressure on people in third world countries who are willing to leverage whatever means they have to make some money. And so it's like, there's that like duality of it, where is the crate full of Pachypodiums coming from Madagascar a good thing objectively? I would say not really. No, it certainly isn't. But then when you think about, well, what about the guy there who is surviving and able to, make sure that his kids don't get sick and he can feed them and whatever it is, and it's a super touchy subject. So, I think it taps into a larger conversation about conservation and the planet as a whole as well. And the loss of our wilderness.
It starts to hit on all kinds of different nerves, and that's why it's just, and then we start talking about it, and here we are as, privileged people on the planet, and, here we are essentially stopping a source of income for someone else, and it's, it's just like, it's almost like, I don't know, man. It's such a hard conversation to have because, we try and we empathize as humans, with other humans, just doing their thing. We've all got families, we've all got to provide, and so they're kind of almost taking on, sort of like entrepreneurship. But the thing is that it's illegal, in a lot of these countries, it is completely outlawed. But then again, there's a system that still allows it. I mean, I do know about, trafficking that happens all along the Pan-American Highway. There is a system at every border crossing from Chile to California.
Yeah.
All you got to do is just know the right people, be in that loop, and you can get the plants there, And I mean, I'm not trying to just single out California here. It's a global issue, but
sure.
I certainly do know that on the border between Chile and Peru, there's some really dodgy shit going on. It's just that's how they get out of here. Like, because Chile is actually quite strict, and a lot of the plants actually don't directly leave from Chile; they actually leave from Peru. Gotcha. And so, and so there's many more loopholes in Peru. They're not as conscious about conservation and stuff as Chile actually is. So, it's incredibly complex. But it's illegal, but there is a system that still allows it. So,
I think that again, kind of like bringing it back to the original goal. My goal with having these conversations is not even necessarily to convince anybody that they should care, because I sometimes I feel like, well, I don't even know with the people, I know certain people that there's nothing you can do to make them care. They'll never care. That's what they want. They want that because of that. And so, my hope is not really to reach those people. I don't think my opinion, I mean, you never know, but that's not my hope. My hope is to reach the people that are getting into the plants because they truly love the nature of the plants, and they appreciate the whole picture of like you said, the ecology, because it's not just a plant. Like, even the fact, even that in some existential sense, I am that plant. Like, we are all connected. We're all in the same. We are part of the ecosystem.
Plants are more, they're wiser than us. They've been on the planet for longer than us, and at a molecular level, we're actually really not a lot different from a plant. We've got eukaryotic cells. We have the same cell structure. Right. A very similar kind of physiology to a plant. There's, at a molecular level, there's not a lot that really differentiates us. I mean, humans, sure, we take the title as the most evolved creature on the planet. We've got a prefrontal cortex, all the rest. But what? It's a personality trait.
Yeah.
And it's a character trait, and it's a appreciation of beauty and nature. And you know what? Not everyone actually has that incorporated in their personality, so if you do have that, if you have a tendency towards that, and a lot of plant collectors and people do, they have appreciation of beauty in nature. But, you know, unfortunately, when money comes into it, or greed or possession, you know,
Right.
or like that, yeah, even some certain ideologies around collecting and desire, you know, it's like it becomes a competition
Yeah.
sometimes, even between people, you know, who's got the biggest plant, who's got the oldest plant, you know. And but that culture's actually been changing in cactus societies and clubs and stuff like that. You know, they're not allowing habitat plants to be shown, which is great, and that's probably hitting a really, or taking out a really big you know, factor, I think, you know, because
I
if
think
there's
so.
not that competitiveness, if that's taken out of it, I think that's going to change it to, you know, to some extent, not completely, obviously, but I think it's a huge player. Yeah.
Well, I think you're 100% right. The way I kind of, if I were to take a, you know, a really like bird's eye view of the whole thing, I think right now we are in the midst of a shifting paradigm. It just
Yeah.
is. All the growers I know are, you know, twice to 2.5 times my age. There's a lot of new younger growers coming into the hobby and into the trade every day. And for the majority, I'm grateful to report that the majority of the younger people that I know are on the same page with me and have the same kind of motivations and really care for the plants from a, like, to me, I mean, I have some Copiapoas that I've bought from a grower in Italy who is a fantastic grower, grows them very, very hard. They're a fairly reasonable price for what they are, and they're gorgeous, but they're all seed grown in Italy. They're not
Yeah.
habitat collected. And it's like, when you see what's possible, look what you can do with these seeds. Look at that. You
Yeah.
tell me that's not a beautiful, you tell me you don't want that. Yeah, it's not big. Yeah, it's going to be, you know, it's 10 years, 20 years from now. But what are you doing this for, right? Are you doing this so that you
Mm.
can have that head on a plaque on your wall?
Yeah.
Or are you doing it? What's your motivation, right? And I'm not, again, with the plaque chasers, I'm not here to sway them. More power to you. You know, you get to do
Yeah.
whatever you want. Welcome to planet Earth. You get to be whoever you want to be while you're here. But for
Yeah.
the people that are on the fence or leaning this way, I mean, you know, there's an endless amount of places, an endless amount of growers who are willing to give you seed, who are willing
Yeah.
to share their methodologies, which not everybody, but a lot of them have been. And I mean, there's something absolutely magical in taking a little tiny black speck with Copiapoa. I mean, it looks like a piece of pepper. I mean, almost. They're
Yeah.
so
That's
small.
funny.
And then you see it turn into this little green glob, and then it becomes a plant that you can recognize and say, hey, that is what I set out to grow. Holy crap, I did it. You know, and
Right.
I think if you can kind of show people and like let people experience that little taste of it, it's addictive. And I think it can be equally
Yeah.
as attractive as the big giant specimen, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, so like I think trying to sort of, the more plants there are in circulation, the less exclusivity that plant has, the less of a price tag it's going to carry, the less motivation
Yeah.
that criminals are going to have to you know, to try to make money on it. So
Exactly. Exactly. Like, yeah, the whole rarity factor is what really drives it. You know, the whole, you know, the title of being a rare plant. That's what really gets people's attention. You know, and
right.
even the fact that some things are driven to extinction is actually, unfortunately, you know, just an inflation. You know, just putting a bigger price tag on it. You know, more demand essentially for it too, which is, yeah, it's just this whole vicious cycle. You know.
I mean, yeah, that can get into a whole another question about human nature. I mean, it's like the what's that show that was the Tiger King or whatever it was. I mean, it's like, you know, that's how I feel. Some of the people I look at, I'm like, you're like Joe Exotic just with cactus. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, no difference. So, uh, is there anything that you would want to add or say, or anything that like maybe you think I missed that we should talk about, or you know,
Oh
anything you would
man,
want
I
to add?
mean, you know, I think it's great to see that people are interested in habitat, you know, and that's what it all comes back to. I think is important for people to understand about, you know, the greater ecology
Right.
of cacti, or even let's just say, you know, desert plants in general, you know, because I mean, the desert makes up like 1/5 of the terrestrial biosphere, you know, and like, I mean, cacti don't just grow in deserts. Like, it's
Right.
a super diverse plant family, you know. I mean, I'm just a total cactophile, you know. Cacti, like my thing. I do appreciate other desert plants, but you know, yeah, they occur in all sorts of different climate zones, you know, and so wherever you live, you know, you can grow a certain kind of, you know, cactus in your climate, pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just play such a huge role in the ecology across the Americas, or some places in yeah. Well, I mean, they're basically endemic to the Americas, you know.
Right.
But you know, with desertification across the globe, I mean, we're having a drier planet, you know, and these kind of plants are the ones that are going to take us into the future, especially cacti, or you know, other plants that are adapted to those environments. And so deserts are like a really, you know, they're a huge part of what contributes to absorbing CO2 from the atmosphere, producing oxygen, all the rest. But you know, they're a food source for birds, insects, lizards, beetles, you know, all kinds of herbivores and stuff. And yeah, they're also structures for like lichens and other epiphytes, tillandsias, all kinds of things, you know. So the part that they play in ecology is just, you know, so huge. And so, you know, we need to really just try and preserve that. I'm all for conservation and preservation. That's, you know, a huge part of what I try and do. But it really just, all comes back to people kind of, I think, wanting to understand about how they interact with the environment. And unfortunately, it probably doesn't grab a lot of people's attention. I don't know, you know, they're really just, they have an appreciation for the plant itself, but maybe not for the role that it plays, you know, in ecology in general.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, that's certainly true to a certain extent, without a doubt. I think, you know, maybe with a lot more people, I mean, and here in California, really, people have really been stuck at home, but across the globe, man, a lot of people have been spending a absolutely insane amount of time at home, and every day more people are starting to get into plants. So I think that, you know, like I said, I think we're in the middle of a paradigm shift. And I think the more, like, I really want to thank you for taking the time to do this, because I think that the more that these conversations are taking place, the more people are going to listen to this and go, hey, you know what? Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. And I feel the same way. And, you know, in a perfect world, which it certainly isn't, but, you know, maybe 10, 20 years down the line, you can go to a local nursery and you can see all these plants that are just available because people are cultivating them, and they're in the trade, and then people can have more appreciation. I mean, to me, you know, the day when I went out to go search for the Utahensis, I live in Los Angeles. That's where I'm calling you from. And I drove all the way out into Nevada, and I searched all around. I drive a Nissan Altima, so I can't go too far off road or too far down fire roads, because it's just, I'm not going to make it back. But I searched literally all day. Finally, I was back in California. And at the end of the day, I had given up, and I was going to climb up to take pictures of these echinocactus cactus. And I saw the inflorescent stalks. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. And I went over the edge and I saw all the Utahensis. And I mean, the feeling I got, Christmas just passed. Christmas did not compare, not even close, to when I found those Utahensis. It wasn't even close. So, I mean, and that's why I'm trying to do, just with my YouTube channel and through my social media, which you're trying to do the same thing. I'm doing one hell of a job at it, frankly, is to try to show the part of nature that fascinates me so deeply, and in hopes that it'll kind of light that same fire and ignite that curiosity in somebody else, you know. And
Absolutely,
your photos in Habitat have certainly done that with me. They've certainly inspired me to get out there more and go out and appreciate these plants in Habitat, you know. So man, I'm really grateful. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this conversation, to have this conversation with me today, man.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for thanks for asking me. I appreciate it. You know, it's I'm just glad that these conversations are actually happening, and that there's people who are genuinely interested in habitat. You know, it's really great to see. And I think, you know, like a lot of people they really do appreciate that interaction, you know, the plants have in the greater scheme of things, you know. And yeah, that's what it all just comes back to. I think it's a lot about just education, I think, and just general awareness. You know, people aren't going to want to protect what they don't know. You know,
Right.
I mean, my list of places to go and visit and travel to is just, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do it in one lifetime. You know, there's so much stuff that I would love to go and see.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, there's, you know, but yeah, I think, you know, the time to do it is, you know, yeah, is just whenever, as soon as you can, because unfortunately, and this is another really tricky subject is, you know, I mean, poachers are not, you know, they're a major threat on habitat, but so is stuff just like the general expansion of humanity and agriculture and stuff, and
Oh yeah.
you know, the increased amount of like wildfires and stuff. Just yeah. But unfortunately, in a lot of developing countries too, slash and burn culture is just, you know, pervasive, and there's not a lot of respect or understanding of what, you know, what's really happening. So, you know, you need to get out there and see it while it's there, and that's part of what I try and do too, is document it while it's here. Because honestly, if things are trending like they are, with everything, with expansion of civilization, you know, agriculture, climate change, in probably about 30 or 40 years,
Yeah.
you know, it's going to be a very different looking world, honestly. And then that's nothing. That's like no time at all in, you know, in the timeline of the world, you know. And it's really quite staggering. But I can tell you that there's a lot of pressure on habitat, you know, globally. Obviously, you know, we know that, but
Yeah.
it's pretty tricky.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, that's like we're kind of tiptoeing around a whole nother topic, you know, but I mean, I'm reading a
Yeah.
book right now called Half Earth by George. It's a Nobel or I forget what it's an amazing book. I'm just a little bit into it, but basically his kind of theory is that we need to have half of the planet reserved for wilderness to keep our biodiversity up, or
Yeah.
we're not, I mean, or it's going to be, like you said, in about 30 to 40 years, it's not going to be this, it's not even going to be recognizable really. And you see it now. I mean, I see it, you know, driving up and down California. I went recently to like the Vista Oceanside area, which is down by San Diego. And it's like, I'm driving, all of a sudden I start smell burnt. What there's there? Oh yeah, there's another wildfire. I mean, it's like incredible. It is now. I don't ever remember living in California having wildfires be as commonplace. I mean, it's just, they're constant. You can't even keep track of which one's which, because there's so many going on all at once. And, you know, and I mean, I live up against the foothills behind my house. I mean, I had people who were ready to come bring a U-Haul to try to help me load up my greenhouse and stuff. Cause you know, it was like, this could be it. And then on that same note, it's like you have to have a lot of people cultivating these things outside of the habitat as well, because, you know, let's just say that, you know, a fire did wipe out all the seedlings and all the decades of particular growers. That's it. They're gone. Yeah. You know, so it's like, you got to have a cooperative kind of community of people that are doing this all around the world, so that if I lose all my material in some devastating incident or whatever it is, well, I know that those genetics are still out there, and it's not all just a bunch of hodgepodge hybridized, you know, mess, that somebody's actually keeping a seed repository, and that these things are available. You know, so it's holding on to a little bit of, you know, for me, I really love going out and feeling right-sized in nature. And I think that part of it that I love, humans like I said, we like 90-degree sharp lines, everything's organized and cataloged. That's not nature. Nature is wobbly and constantly mutating, you know? And so when you go out there and you're standing there, you know, I recently got a drone, and when I put it up and I'm looking down at myself, you can't even see myself on the desert. I'm not even visible. I'm nothing there, you know? So it's a little bit of it can be a little bit of a bewildering feeling, I guess, for some people, you know, but it's just like, for me, and again, I'm kind of getting off on some whole other stuff here, but for me, it's like remembering that I'm a part of all of this. Like I am this. I'm not, there is no separation. I perceive with my, by the way, our eyes are really bad at perceiving all of the reality around us anyway. So it's like, so just with my little weak eyes, it looks like I'm separate, but I'm not separate from any of this, you know. I'm really
we have to see ourselves as a part of it. I mean, we have been a part of it, you know, and I think in general now people are seeing themselves as like separate from nature, but you know, we are nature. But yeah, it's just about letting go of that ego or that, you know, looking outside beyond yourself, transcendence, you know, appreciating something that's outside of humanity, you know, and seeing that, I mean, we are part of the story of evolution, you know, and so we've evolved from all this other life, you know, and yeah, man, it's pretty gut wrenching to see some of the stuff that's happening, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
yeah, well, you know, I mean, I think doing what we can, doing what you're doing, helping to try to create a appreciation for nature. I think that's all we can do. You know, you can't force anybody to drink, so you can just show them where the water's at. I think that you do a great job of that through your account, and like I said, you've certainly inspired me, and with what I'm doing, and you know, I try to be a force for positivity and for conservation for good in the circle that I'm in, and for the people that come in contact with me. I try to make sure that that's what I'm promoting and pushing out there. So, you know.
Yeah, you're doing a great job with it. Really, it's good. You know, I'm just glad that there are other people who are even interested in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really great.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, I think we're getting ready to actually get cut off of Zoom here. If we got 40 minutes before it cuts us off. So, I think we're right on the cusp here, but, Stefan, thank you so much, man. If somebody, I think everybody already follows you. I'll put all of your, contact info in the description for the video when I put it out, and I'll let you know so you can, check it out and all that good stuff. But,
awesome. Cool.
Yeah, man, thank you so much again. I really appreciate it. And, I'll see you on Instagram, dude.
Yeah. Okay, man. Yeah. Thanks for the chat.
Absolutely. Thank you again. Adios, man.
Cheers. See ya. Adios.